Welcome to the Manifesting Latina podcast, where you'll learn to unlock your incredible power of manifestation and connect deeply with yourself. I'm Dr. Norma Reyes, your guide and host, helping you manifest a life filled with purpose, abundance, and inner wisdom. Together, we'll dive into the art of manifestation, practical techniques, personal growth, and the magic of aligning with your deepest desires. No more feeling stuck or disconnected. It's time to awaken your inner manifester. Embrace your spirituality and create a life that truly resonates with your soul. Tune in each week to the Manifesting Latina podcast and begin to manifest your dream life. Hey everyone, welcome back. And for those of you who are parents and have children in school, welcome back to a new school year. And if you haven't started yet, good luck on y'all's first day of school. So today I have something special. Every episode is special. But today I'm going to talk to y'all about some things. And I already have my smile on my face, so I know it's going to be good. And I'm going to start with saying that this episode I'm recording a day before it gets released. And hopefully it's released on time. And if it doesn't, that's okay. I told my podcast editor already, like, if it comes out midday, it comes out midday. And really, like, I was just really busy last week and I didn't get it done. The boys were still home. I still was navigating that. They started school last Thursday and just really just trying to get back into the groove of a norm. And even though the older boys are 5 and 8, it's still like a challenge, right? Telling them to do this, do that, so they're not just on iPads all day. And the baby's at daycare, so that's, it was helpful. But at first, it was a new routine I had to get to doing, and also working to build my business up again, as well as like pumping. When I'm making my schedule or even planning my schedule, I hadn't really thought about pumping because it's been so long. And then I was like, oh my God, I got to make time to pump. And so last week, there was a few days that I only pumped one time. And fortunately, I don't have any breastfeeding issues and my supply is abundant and I produce more than baby needs like each day, which is I'm very grateful for. But I saw my little supply winding down to like 5 or 6 like frozen bags and started to get a little nervous since I was only doing one pump a day. But things are now flowing. And really, maybe that's what it was, right? Like, okay, do what I can, do what I can. And today's episode has nothing to do with that, but kind of. But today's episode is really to give you, I don't even have the words yet. Or this episode, I have a very, very small outline of what I will be touching on. So let me talk about that. So this past Sunday, I had a VIP day. So if you're interested in having a VIP day with me, send me a DM, join my email list. I send information out on that. And currently the rate for a VIP day is 4 hours for 555. So this past Sunday, I had a VIP day with a client and I was talking about overconfidence and overbelief in yourself. And so she asked me like, oh, is that something that's possible? And I was like, well, yes and no, right? So it's important for you to have a strong belief in yourself and believing that you can do something. And then she made me think and realize that it's not overconfidence. I guess sometimes it can be, but in the situation that I was trying to explain, or how like it's a fine line between your ego thinking, and ego thinking can lead to overconfidence in some things and then even lead you to delusional thinking versus intuitive thinking and intuition guiding you. And so today is really going to be about that. Like, are you navigating your life with ego thinking, that's overconfidence, delusional thinking, also wanting instant gratification, or is fear like taking over? Or are you following your intuitive hits and following through with them? Because we all receive intuitive guidance, and this is when, if you haven't heard any episodes of that I where I talk about intuition, is when you just know this is something you need to do. It feels good. It feels calm. It feels like this is it, right? You have a calm, collected confidence in your decision. Now, this doesn't mean that the decision, that feeling stays with you, because fear and the ego come in and they start to make you question yourself. And, that can lead you down a different path, right? To avoidance and not doing the things that you want to do. So I'm going to talk about overconfidence, delusional thinking, ego, intuition, burnout, avoidance, and how all of those things show up in your manifestations for different reasons, meaning like you can't manifest what you're desiring because something is blocking you either from receiving your intuitive guidance, or your ego is pushing you to do things that is not intuitive guidance. So hopefully after this episode, you're able to kind of navigate that space, right? Am I making this decision from intuitive guidance, or is this my ego, or is this fear? And your fear can be your ego, and sometimes fear just comes in and tries to trump your intuition. So really everybody's unique on how you manage that. But I would say that fear and ego are similar, but they come from different places. Or I should say, they come from different internal belief systems. And so we all have our internal belief systems. And that sounds like an episode for me to make later. And it navigates you. And this is why sometimes if you have felt what is called cognitive dissonance, which means like you are desiring two things at once, or you're desiring something, but then you have something else holding you back. Let me give you guys an example because I feel like I'm just saying something a lot. So, for example, if you want to explore a new career idea and you're just like, I'm done working here, I want to go and explore a new career idea somewhere else, but then at the same time you also don't want to let anybody down, and you want to make sure that you make the right decision, quote unquote right decision. And so then there's a part of you that wants to have fun and explore, and then there's a part of you that wants to make sure that you're making the right decision, and that those two beliefs cannot really work well together because life just happens. There's no right decision. So it's kind of consolidating these beliefs together. So the way to go about that is recognizing both of them and recognizing that both of them are in an internal system you have, and both of them offer guidance for you. Neither is good or bad, in beginning to release that as well, right? Because we get told that we have conditioning in us and that our conditioning is holding us back. But your conditioning has got you to where you are right now. So it's not holding you back. It's just no longer serving you in the same way that it did before. You know, going to school and getting good grades served you, and that was a conditioning that you had. Saving money and saving up to $10,000, that's a conditioning you had, and it served its purpose. And it's time for you to level up, let go of that system, and move forward. So those are just some examples on your internal systems that you have and how they are basically helping you navigate the world around you. And when you are wanting to quantum leap, when you are wanting to move forward and take big leaps, you really have to shake up your internal systems to be able to get there. Otherwise, you're eventually going to get there. It's not that you're not. It's just going to take longer, it'll take 5 to 10 years versus 2 to 3. So let me talk about overconfidence, delusional thinking, ego, and fear. And then I'll touch on like intuition to kind of wrap that up, like how to really lean into your intuition to guide you in what you are wanting to manifest in your life. So, our ego, it's just our logical mind. And this is just my perspective of it. Of course, it can mean anything else, but it's just our logical mind. It's our conditioning that we have had, our programming that you've had in your mind on how things should be. So if you find yourself saying the word should, then most likely that is coming from your ego, right? Like a simple one for myself would be like, I should already be making six figures in my business because blah, blah, blah. Well, that's ego thinking. That's not allowing the divine to do its plan. And yes, it is possible. I think that's what happens when people are talking about manifesting and manifestation is that yes, all possibilities are possible. But when you start to feel entitled to those possibilities, that's when you have moved into ego thinking. So when you're feeling like, why should I already have this? Well, if you were in alignment, you would already have it. So there's a part of you that is not in alignment. And this is not to gaslight anyone to say like you're doing something wrong. Sometimes you are doing everything that you need to be doing. But what is going on is that you are just having to wait for what you are wanting, or more often than not, you have a big lesson coming to you, such as myself, actually, a big lesson that I've had this past week, and it's been accumulating to this moment. And there's a lot that has to happen for some of these big lessons to come so that that quantum leap that you're wanting can happen. And sometimes the quantum leaps, right before the quantum leaps happen for you, you're going to be working really hard and not seeing results, and you almost feel stagnant. It's not the same as burnout because burnout is just like completely exhausted, not being able to think, like feeling agitated, like just done. And so burnout is a little different from feeling stagnant in that sense. Of course, everyone's situation is unique. So if you feel like what I'm saying isn't resonating with you, just remember like that's okay. Like that just means you are navigating something slightly different that I'm not touching on. Send me a DM, ask me a question. I'm always open in my DMs on Instagram. It's my favorite place to hang out. So send me a DM there with your questions. So, overconfidence, when you are manifesting and you are intentionally working on wanting to manifest something into your life, overconfidence can make you feel like, oh, I'm doing all the things, and that means that next month I will be out of debt. Then spending, like you have all this money to spend, and then, next month comes and you're in even more debt. Well, what happened? Well, there is an overconfidence, right? That was driven by your ego. And now you have this extra debt, and that debt is, it's going to feel exhausting. It's going to feel heavy. And some things that you can do to figure out, like, okay, what happened? Did I come from a place of overconfidence, or did fear come in? And I don't have an answer for you directly, but I will guide you in trying to figure that out for yourself. And I'll give you guys an example actually, of my own. So actually it's been a year. It's officially a year that I've been full time in my business. Um, and I guess I shouldn't really say full time in my business. I should say it's been a year since I left my 9 to 5. And, 6 months later, I had my baby, and now it's 6 months later. And just about like last month, did baby go back to daycare. So technically not really full time in my business for the year, but it's been a year since I left my 9 to 5. And so when I decided to make the decision to leave, that was June 2023. And I was so ready. I was done. I just knew that my 9 to 5 was not the place for me anymore. I was making six figures, and I just couldn't. And I knew I was pregnant. I knew what I was leaving behind. And so the last 6 months has been a financial struggle. And part of me has been very much of like, well, I do not regret my decision, but I thought to myself, did I have overconfidence in myself to believe that I could make up the money, right? Make the money that we needed in time to be able to take maternity leave, which I only did about a month maternity leave. And then I was working part-time hours in my business since March. And there's just a lot of fear that came to me in about, like, I would say the middle of January. And then it really just kind of stuck around. It like yo-yoed, right? This fear, the fear of not being able to grow my business the way I would like, the fear of not having the growth that I needed to support my family financially. And then the other part is that you're relying on our savings, our funds that were meant for that. And so it was just this a lot, a lot. There's a lot of dynamics there, and there's a lot of dynamics in your life. And this is why having a coach will help you kind of navigate those spaces. And this is why I always try to have coaches. And I actually just recently got a new coach, a manifestation coach. Her name is Jodi Shield, and I started her program last month. And it's just been like a big, giant shift, a shift that I needed because I was stagnant. I was stuck, but it was from a place of fear for me. You know, you have to kind of figure out what it is for you when you do feel stagnant. And sometimes it's fear, sometimes it's everything. Sometimes it's burnout, or sometimes it's avoidance. Like today, trying to record this episode, I was like, oh, I don't want to record this episode. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll just skip a week. And it's like, no, I'm not skipping a week. So here I am. I'm recording this episode for you guys to talk about overconfidence, delusional thinking, ego, intuition, burnout, avoidance. And so if you have found yourself not manifesting what you are wanting, and then you got to navigate the space like, okay, what am I trying to manifest? Let's say you're trying to manifest, and we'll just go with money because it's easy, but anything, right? Let's say you're trying to manifest $1,000. Okay. And you have actually never had $1,000 in one day, but you're like, I'm going to manifest $1,000 in a day. That can be overconfidence. If you've never made $1,000 in a single day, meaning like it could be, I don't know, lotto ticket, one offer, or yeah, like one, or you got paid $1,000 in a day for the labor that you did. If you've never done that, you can almost set yourself up for overconfidence. Now, there's nothing wrong with wanting to manifest $1,000 in a day. You do need to grow your belief and then also ask yourself, like, am I wanting to manifest $1,000 in a day because of ego? Because I want to prove that I can do this? I want to show the world? Or is it because I'm having intuitive hits on how I can make $1,000? Ask yourself, am I having intuitive hits that tell me I can totally make $1,000 today? And it's completely possible. I will tell you guys, there's plenty of people that make $8,000 in a day and even more. There's even people who make $10,000 in a day, 20,000, 100,000 in a day. All of that is possible. And that's what happens with manifestation, is that sometimes when you have drank the manifestation Kool-Aid and you're like, I got this, I am in the energetic flow, it might be ego that is pushing you into delusional thinking. Now, it is completely possible for me to make $10,000 tomorrow. It is completely possible. The possibilities are infinite on how I can do that. Now, if I was like, okay, since I'm manifesting $10,000, I'm going to make a list of everything that I want to buy, and then I'm going to go buy it. Right. And maybe I don't go spend $10,000, but let's say I spend $1,000, right? And then the following day, I start to have this fear of like, well, I just spent a bunch of money and how am I going to manifest this? And yesterday I was so stupid to believe that I could do this. And your ego is just hitting you from all sides. And what I mean by that is like, first, it made you believe that you can manifest something that you weren't quite ready to be able to manifest. If you've never made like 10,000 in a month, then the possibility of you making 10,000 in a day is going to be a huge stretch for you. It's going to be a huge quantum leap for you. Now, I am not saying that you cannot do this. You totally can manifest 10K in a day. And actually, if you were part of my 10K in 10 days, or you have no idea what I'm talking about, I had a challenge for people, and there was people who manifested, 100,000, 10,000 in those days, in the 10 days, which is just amazing to see. And it is completely possible. But then what shifts did they have to make? What internal shifts? Because we are all energetic beings and we all have flow. We all have the possibilities to be able to receive endless amounts of money. And this is what I'm here for. I'm here to help you gain all the abundance you want, whether it's monetary, love, support, whatever it is that you are working to manifest and bring into your life. And then the leap to be able to get to the place to receive the flow, you have to clear a lot of shit, meaning you have to clear a lot of the ego gunk that is keeping you from receiving. And sometimes it's fear, right? And there's just so many different emotions that keep you from receiving, that keep the flow from flowing. And fear, regret, shame, guilt, those are some of the heavier emotions that will not allow things to come through. So you have to start working through that guilt, right? So personally for myself, right, working on the guilt of like putting us, me, my family, in this financial situation when I didn't have to, right? No one made me leave my 9 to 5. I chose to leave my 9 to 5. And then I felt guilty for putting us in this situation. And then I continued to put us in this situation. And I'll explain that here a little more. So in February, we had our savings and everything, right, to meet our minimum basic needs. And when I was looking at my money, and I know I talked about this before already, like, oh, turns out I have more money to meet our needs, blah, blah, blah. And that totally happened. The thing was, it was the bare minimum. And it was also eating at me, the guilt behind providing my family with the bare minimum life. Now, I'm not saying that they need to have more to be happy or anything like that. But when you are doing bare minimum, you are in survival mode. And I had the means to actually allow us to not just be in the bare minimum, but because of fear of like, oh, I can't use this money. I have a Roth IRA with plenty of money in it. And if you're not familiar with the Roth IRA, this is a retirement account. It's an after taxes retirement account. So everything that you put in this account yourself, you can pull out at any time. There's no penalty. There's only a penalty on the money that it's grown in there. And so I have a sizable amount of money in there. And instead of dipping into that money, which was the plan back in June of 2023, that if I had expended all of our savings, that would be the next logical step. And it was like investment account, savings, and then moving to that. And so obviously there was a part of me in my ego that was like not wanting to touch that money because of fear. And then what does that mean about me? But at the same time, I have this money that we need to use or that we can use. And if we use it, it's going to make our lives better. And instead of allowing that flow of money to go through, right? I wasn't releasing this money. It put us in a tougher situation each month where now actually this month I don't actually need to touch that money. There's other situations that I won't go into where I do need to release the money to be able to pay some things off and some credit card debt. And so now I'm like, why didn't I do this in February? Why did I allow the stress of the credit card debt like for the last 5 months? Why did I do that to us? And it's not, I mean, now, right? You don't know what you don't know. And of course, now it's like, why did I do that? Doesn't make any logical sense. But at the time, my logical brain told me, hey, hold on to this money because you don't know when you're going to have more money, pay your basic needs, and that's it, right? Because my brain, my logical mind, my ego at the time was in survival mode. Now that I have shifted back into a more abundant mindset, yes, I would like to not have to release that money if I don't need to. But if it's going to improve our quality of life and remove some burdens, why have I been waiting all this time to do that? And it goes back to the ego and fear and how it blocks you from making the intuitive decision that you've had all along. And there was also some avoidance. So sometimes you might avoid thinking about your problem, or you might avoid thinking about possible solutions because it's scary. So you have to kind of figure out where is it, right? Was I having overconfidence? Was I being delusional when I thought, oh, hey, I'm gonna leave my 9 to 5, I'm gonna sign a client each month. Was I delusional in that thinking? And the thing is, no, I wasn't. I've had plenty of counseling clients. I'm building up my caseload again. What also happened during this time was fear of showing up, fear of being the version of myself that was bringing in a client each month, the version of myself that was showing up and reminding people of the services that I offer, the version of me that was connecting with others and serving my audience and showing my audience the value that they'll receive to work with me. So, as you know, everything in retrospect is 2020. And when you're in survival mode, you can't think. You just can't think. I mean, you can't even think logically sometimes. And some of the things and decisions that I was making were coming from a place of abundance. This month actually has been a great month financially. And I say this month, but it's only August 19th. So there's still plenty of month left. And maybe that is what's helping me, but also be willing to release this money, kind of take away some of these burdens. And honestly, I think part of it has just been there's just so many multiple factors, and not to go into 100,000 details, but really, I just wanted you guys to see how when you are thinking of manifesting something big, there has to be big shifts within you to be able to do that. Now, this doesn't mean that you constantly have to put yourself into quantum leaps. There's nothing wrong with steady Eddie, getting to where you want to go. Are still going to need belief. You're still going to need to follow your intuition to avoid having burnout. Because if you continue taking decisions from the ego or from fear, it can lead to burnout. It can lead to being just feeling numb, feeling being in survival mode. And so this is where I want to talk to y'all about avoidance. And so our intuition is constantly guiding us. So the way to connect with your intuition, I'm going to share two ways. Some people have a difficult time sitting still. So a walking meditations for you. If you're just like the thought of trying to sit and meditate, it's just not possible. And not because you have a lot of thoughts, but because it's hard to get your body to rest, then do a walking meditation. Now, if you have a lot of thoughts and the thought of sitting in meditation makes you feel uncomfortable, I ask you to challenge yourself. Meditation is not about silencing your mind. It's about silencing you, meaning your ego self, so that you can connect with higher guidance. Meaning, even if you're having a lot of racing thoughts, the fact that you sit still and you ask for divine guidance and you wait for it, despite whatever thoughts you're having in your mind, then divine guidance can come. Divine guidance can come in the form of a feeling, a thought, an actual sign, connecting with someone. It's not always going to be very, very obvious that, oh, this is the thing I need to do. Sometimes it is just so subtle, and it's so subtle that it's going to make you feel like, is this really it? And if needed, sit in silence again and connect with yourself and ask yourself, is this it? And you will know. Because if you start to have those ego thinking thoughts that are like going 100 miles an hour, try to attack the idea and then ask your ego mind, like, okay, what are you trying to protect me from? Because remember, your programming, your conditioning is all about survival, which is not a bad thing. It is who we are. It is what keeps us going. It's what has gotten you here. It's what's gotten me here. But sometimes it can get in the way. So you got to ask yourself, okay, what is this fear trying to tell me? What is this thought trying to tell me? And for me, that's also what was going on, right? I was having fear come in and it was trying to keep me from losing all my money, right? Like that's the fear, like the basic thought, like, oh, if I do this, I'm going to lose all my money. The thing is, like, yes, spending all my money is puts me at risk, but is that risk worth it? Is the risk of my entrepreneurship journey worth it? In June 2023, you asked me that, and I will tell you 100,000% absolutely. And then come February 2024, all this fear is creeping in, all these nerves coming in, and it's like the guilt of what am I putting my family through? And I say that, but it's not like we weren't paying our bills. It's not like they weren't doing, well, from February till like May, we weren't doing a lot in order to save money. And it wasn't until I began to be like, okay, we can't just live like this. This is not okay. And there's a lot of money advice out there that tells you to do that, but you can't live life like that. And if you've been a long time listener, you know that I say not to do that. They said to do that during my PhD, basically focus only on the PhD and don't have any changes in your life, which I was like, okay, I can't live like that. But again, like in January, February, I had the baby in January. A couple weeks later, my daughter had some mental health issues that required a lot of support, plus having a newborn. So I myself was definitely in survival mode. Like the thought of trying to think about how to best utilize our funds to be able to get out of survival mode thinking just wasn't possible because when you are in survival mode, you cannot think clearly. You can barely think. So if you're in that place, get yourself as regulated as possible. Forgive yourself for any decisions that you made during that time. And that is definitely something that I've been working on since about a month ago. And that's probably why there's been a lot more abundance this month. So about a month ago is when I started doing these internal shifts and work. When I started working with this coach and really seeing some of this. And a lot of this is still unfolding. Like this is all very, very fresh for me. And I wasn't even thinking that I was going to be sharing this soon. I did know that I wanted to share with you all this. Um, so I'm going to end the episode there before it turns into a very long episode. But remember that you are meant to have more. You are meant to have all of the things that you want to have. And you can by following your intuitive hits. follow your intuition, and those intuitive hits are guiding you. When you start to have the fear come up, self-doubt, the ego thinking that makes you feel like, oh, I made a bad decision, slow down, slow down. I know that you want to keep moving forward, but what's going to happen is that the ego is taking you forward and it is not taking you in the direction that your intuition would. Now, this doesn't mean that you're going to be completely off from where you need to be. It just means that your ego is going to take you down the path to learn lessons the harder way. That's what the ego does. So if I had just slowed down during that time of very, very high level stress, 2 weeks after having the baby, I had mastitis. And if you've never had it, the comparison is like having the flu on repeat for like every 3 hours, like the beginning of the flu when it's at its worst. Every 3 hours feeling that for about 2 days. It was horrible. And I caught it early because it can last longer than that. I mean, and it did last longer than that, but it was the first 2 days were just so horrible. And I was still breastfeeding and still trying to survive and figure everything out. And the thing is, like, when you're in it, you have to have supports around you that can also help you. And of course, me, my husband, we were all in it and we did have some support, but sometimes the supports don't know how to help you. And people don't know that you need help unless you're asking again. And when you're in survival mode, it's hard to even think to ask for help. So, really, really, really be kind and gentle to yourself. In February, like I was sharing with my friends and getting the support in the ways that I needed it at the time. Now, of course, that I'm not in that situation, it's like, oh, I could have done these things differently. Everything in retrospect is 2020. So, yeah, that would have been great if I had thought about these things then. It would have been great if I had made those decisions then, and I wouldn't be here learning some tough decisions that I'm making now, but that are for our better good. They are tough decisions in the sense of like, I don't know, now that I'm thinking about it and sharing with y'all, it's not even a tough decision. It's just a decision. And I feel good about it. I feel like my intuition has guided me to make those decisions. I think it's tough for my ego. It's tough for my ego to accept the decisions. So really, being reflective, thinking, talking to someone, find someone that you can share your thoughts with. If you are having emotional needs, and of course, find a therapist. If there's trauma, find a therapist. But if not, find your community. And if you're looking for a coach, I'm accepting clients, one-on-one clients. So reach out to me via DM or the links in the show notes. Like I said, I'll be ending this episode here. And I look forward to your questions in the Instagram DMs. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you for listening to the Manifesting Latina podcast. Did you love today's episode? Please help us grow by leaving a review, sharing with a friend, or on your social media. Let's spread the abundance and fun of manifesting.